Hi, Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for Speak Mom Scraps to share with you the August sketch. So this is the sketch that I created, and based on that sketch, I created this layout using a photoplay collection. I also am going to stitch sequins, and the sequins that I used with this particular collection is called Rose, Wine, and Explosion. And if you shop at the Speak Mom Scraps store and you use the code Suzanna with a Z 15, you can save 15%. So I went with the color scheme of the pink and the teal. And another good sequence collection mix, if you are looking for a Spiegel Mom Scraps mix that would work really well with this collection, is called Fairy Garden. So that's another option for you to consider. So the sketch calls for a square. And or it could be a frame that you gutted and put around the whole piece of paper. I decided that I wanted to have different gradations of color, and so I have a pink background. I'm going to make mitered corners from my sewing history. That is going to be the frame around that arrowed piece of paper there. So I cut 4 3 1/4 strips, and I am literally going to cut a 45-degree angle through each corner. I am going to get my Imaginis ruler because it has a 45-degree mark on it, which helps me get the exact precision of the 45-degree angle cut. I did actually do what my mom taught me to do in sewing, where you put the two together and then you fold it out to a 45-degree angle, and that gave me my first cut, but you can see where the fold is, and because of the thickness of this pattern paper, it's not exactly a clean line per se, and so that's why I go and get my Imaginis quilting ruler. It's not really a quilting ruler, but it has a 45-degree line mark in it, and you'll see it in this next. So here's where I go get it, and so you see that 45-degree mark there. So I line that up, and that gives me my exact angle that I'm going to cut. I will show you how I work through the next couple of corners, and then I'm just going to jump ahead to the completed thing, because literally that's what I do with all 4 corners. 3 of the 4 match up. The 4th one doesn't match up. I must have gotten a strip that I did the reverse angle from. I'm not going to let it bother me, because really nobody really can tell unless you take a close look at it, and you will notice because I've drawn your attention to it, but really it's not all that obvious. So once I have that completed, I'm going to adhere this down to my cardstock. The thing about this is that I now have 2 layers of paper to sew through, which makes it a little bit difficult, but it is what it is. So the sketch calls for 2 horizontal photos. I interpreted the sketch because I had 2 vertical photos that I wanted to use. So what I did was I rotated the sketch 45 degrees to the left, and so that's why I've got the tall photos on the right hand side, and then because of that I'm going to also skew, well, I'm going to rotate the title as well so that you're not reading uphill or downhill as the case may be, but the title will still be a multi-font title. It'll just be up on that top left hand corner, so you can see if you take that whole sketch and rotate it how that's going to work. So my initial plan with this, with the sewing of the sequins, was that I was going to sew sequins all the way around the border of this, but you can't really see them. They add a nice little sparkle to the bottom of the page, but because I chose to use the stripes going short across the mitered corners or the border, you don't see them as visibly as you would have had you had the long teal strips, which is what I was originally going to do. So what I'm doing here is basically I'm doing a slip stitch. So I'm coming up through the back side of the paper, going down through the hole of the sequence, going out to the right hand side of the sequence, and then going back down into the hole of the sequence. And I'm going to do I only showed you the 4 there, but I will complete that towards the end of the layout. So I wanted a few layers behind these black and white photos. These photos are of my daughter reading. My daughter, let's see, we've on summer vacation a month. And at this point, I don't even think it had been a month, and she had already read 20 books for her summer reading list. So this girl has an extreme love of books, and so that's why the title you'll see later on in the layout becomes For the Love of Books. So in the sketch, in my sketches, when I create sketches, I generically use hearts as embellishments. Clearly, they do not have to be hearts. They're just kind of placeholders for embellishments. I don't want to imply at all what you need to use, and that's why I just go generically with hearts when I make sketches. And so there are several hearts throughout this sketch, just to give you ideas of where you could potentially put embellishments. I have decided to pretty much kind of do similar to what the sketch has, have one up above with that little banner, and then a few to the side. And I used just things that came with this collection. I happen to have bought the embellishment, the ephemera kit that goes with this, and so that's what I was using. I am now backing Love with foam adhesive because those of you who follow me and watch me scrap know that I like to use foam adhesive here and there just to add a little bit of depth to some of the pages. I also find that when you use foam adhesive, when you're using sequins on your pages, that it lifts the page protector off the page a little bit, and so you don't get scratches from the sequins onto the page protector there. So I'm just going to layer up these photos, layer up the embellishments, and in this collection, it's hard to tell the way that the lighting is here, but those arrows are brown. They're kind of a crafty color, and so I will actually later, and I do this off camera, I do take a craft tag that I will stick into a glassine envelope behind my daughter, and again, that just provides me a place to journal. The arrows are fairly dark, and so if I were to journal directly on the page, which I have no problem doing, it just would be really hard to read. So by putting the tag behind the photo, I'm able to do some journaling and tell the story about how many books this girl has read already. So I'm going to finish off the title work here. I've got these letters from, I believe these are basic gray, and then some Amy Tan, those foam letters there, and I actually only end up taking out the heart from that and using some other thickers to complete the title that says For the Love of. The other thing that I do end up doing off camera is I am going to add additional sequins. I felt that sequence down the bottom, the strand, was very lonely by itself, so it needed a little more love, and so I will do 3 clusters of the pinky rose wine sequins scattered throughout the page, and you'll see that in the close-ups. So this is a sketch inspired layout. It is inspired by a sketch that I created for Spiegelmom Scraps. This is the August sketch. So if you do play along, and we would love for you to play along, you have a chance to win a $10 gift certificate to the store, and you can upload your projects over on Facebook in 15 minutes to Scrap with Spiegelmom Scraps. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them on the box down below. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're inspired to play along with this sketch challenge. Thanks for joining me. Take care.